I hadn't been to a family event in years, but there I was, standing at the reception table of a luxury beachside resort, the kind of place my father reserved for clients, not family. Champagne glasses clinked nearby. Laughter rolled through the air like it had been rehearsed. And then I saw it. A simple name tag. Ethan, the disappointment black font. Matte sticker. As casual as labeling someone guessed #14. My chest didn't tighten. My hands didn't shake. Not this time. I peeled the tag from the table, felt the cheap plastic press into my palm. Behind me, a familiar laugh cut through the air like salt on an open wound. Diana. Of course it was her. I turned just enough to catch her sipping red wine, wearing that smug, polished grin she'd perfected over a decade. Her gaze flicked to the tag, then to me. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. I looked away. I had no intention of reacting. That's what she wanted always. A scene. A meltdown. A reason to confirm what she whispered about me to everyone in Dad's circle. Let them play their game. I came prepared for mine. The lobby buzzed with clinking cutlery and shallow conversations. All around me, people I barely remembered shook hands and exchanged air kisses. I stepped into the main hall, blending into a space where I was clearly not meant to belong. And then I saw him, my father, Mr. Anderson, a man who hadn't called me son in over 5 years. He was right at the center of it all, smiling, glowing, toasting with Isabella and Logan like they were royalty. I hovered on the edge of his gaze, just enough to be noticed, just enough for him to flinch when our eyes met for half a second. Then he turned back. Expected. This was his night, not mine. I walked to the bar, picked up a glass of something cold, something sparkling, let the bubbles fizz against my lip while I took a slow breath. Well, look who decided to show up. Her voice was syrupy, poison laced in silk. Diana. I turned, smiled politely. Long time. Surprised to see you, she purred. Freelancing still, or did that change? There it was, the nudge, the blade wrapped in civility. I'm still doing my thing, I replied smoothly, building something small but stable. She hummed, how charming. And then, eyes twinkling, she glanced toward the reception table. Hope you like the welcome gift. The name tag. Of course. I gave a nod, tactful as ever. Her smile faltered just a hair. She didn't expect me to be calm. They never do. You could always spot them in a crowd, Isabella and Logan. Polished, poised, perfect. Logan stood by the terrace, wine in one hand, gesturing like a TED Talk reject. Apparently, he was mentoring at some Fortune 500 internship Dad pulled strings to get him into. He spoke in acronyms and buzzwords. People lapped it up. Isabella sat under the crystal chandelier, gold bracelet glinting every time she moved. She was talking about her boutique PR agency, which surprised Dad also funded. I heard phrases like global reach and European clients. The last time I saw her, she couldn't spell reputation. They weren't just his kids. They were his investment portfolio. And me? The tax write-off. I took a seat near the back, away from the main tables. My name wasn't on any seating chart, which told me exactly how deliberate all this was. But that was fine. It gave me a better view. I watched as Mr. Anderson raised his glass during a toast. To my children, Isabella, Logan, your ambition inspires me every day. No pause, no glance in my direction. No accidental and Ethan. Diana clapped first, beaming like she'd been crowned. The room followed. I sipped my drink. I didn't need the applause. I had receipts. The fake smiles. The cash transfers from my mother's fund to Logan's tuition. The way my calls went straight to voicemail, while they posted vacation photos in Santorini. Those things used to keep me up at night. Now, they were just data points, evidence. It was always the same script. I was older, so I had to understand. I was independent, so I didn't need support. I was freelancing, so not a real job. convenient excuses to justify cutting me out. Once, when I was 15, Logan crashed Dad's car. Guess who got grounded? Me for not setting a good example. Another time, Isabella left the stove on and nearly set the kitchen on fire. Diana blamed me for not checking on her. Patterns. Always patterns. They broke me when I was younger, but I'm not that boy anymore. I saw Diana catch my eye from across the room. She smirked. Probably thought I was sitting there, fuming, wounded, waiting to be acknowledged. Wrong. I was observing, measuring, deciding where to strike, because tonight wasn't about forgiveness. It was about closure, and they were going to witness it. I wasn't always an outsider. There was a time, brief, quiet, and real, when my father used to hold my hand just a little tighter when we crossed busy streets, when he used to call me champ, when he'd show up to school science fairs in suits and pretend he wasn't bored, as I explained how vinegar and baking soda made a volcano. I was 8, maybe 9, before Diana entered the picture, before the wine-red lipstick, before the silk smiles and soft lies wrapped in compliments. When she first came into our lives, I tried. I really did. I told myself she was just nervous, that her weird jokes were how she bonded, that maybe calling me a little rugged around the edges was just her way of showing affection. It wasn't. I remember the first birthday after she moved in. I was turning 11. I wanted a skateboard. I ended up with a dress shirt and a book on financial literacy. Diana said, "It's time he starts learning what success looks like." Dad agreed. "You're growing up, Ethan. No more childish things." That night, I watched Logan open a PS5, his third console. Isabella got a designer bag. She was 13. I got budgeting advice. I stopped asking for anything after that. They always had a way of framing things. When I got straight A's, it was expected. When Logan passed gym class, it was a celebration. When I asked to join a summer music camp, I was told it was a waste of time. But when Isabella enrolled in private art lessons, Diana called it nurturing potential. I kept a mental scorecard, but it was always rigged. At 14, I started washing dishes at a local diner after school more for escape than cash. Dad didn't notice. Diana did. She called it unambitious, said I was wasting after school hours. When Logan crashed Dad's Lexus drag racing with friends, guess who got scolded for not being a better influence? Spoiler, me. It got worse when I turned 18. A month before my high school graduation, I logged into the savings account. Mom left for me. It was empty, gone. Every dollar she'd worked for, saved from my college tuition, erased. Dad said it so casually, like it was a weather update. "Hunter, sorry. Logan needed help with his university fees." "You're smart, Ethan. You can get scholarships." I remember blinking, then blinking again, not crying, not yelling, just trying to process what betrayal looked like in real time. Diana stood nearby, hand on Dad's shoulder, nodding, as if this was teamwork, as if this was noble. That night, I packed what little I had and left. No one stopped me. No calls, no guilt, not even a text. They let me go as if I'd always been temporary. The years after that were brutal but mine. I worked 2, sometimes 3 jobs, took community college courses, learned to cook meals that didn't come out of boxes, slept in basements, then rented studio apartments, then finally my own 1-bedroom near campus. I built my degree on exhaustion and spite. When Logan was in Cabo, I was filing freelance contracts at 3 a.m. When Isabella posted vacation stories from Italy, I was microwaving ramen in a cracked bowl because the stove coil wouldn't light. Still, I didn't envy them. I pitied them, because everything they had was borrowed. Dad's money, Dad's contacts, Dad's pride. What I had was mine. They invited me to Christmas one year, guilt-laced, half-hearted. Diana sent the email, said it would mean a lot to your father. I said yes. I don't know why. I arrived in a pressed shirt, bearing a bottle of wine I couldn't really afford. They opened the door like they'd forgotten I existed. Isabella barely looked up from her phone. Logan was mid-story about his stock plays. Dad's first words were, "Still doing the freelance thing?" No welcome. No how have you been? Just that. Then came the jab, times must be tough. I could ask around, help you get a real job. I nodded, polite. I'm running my own company now. He blinked. Confused. Skeptical. Diana smiled. Well, maybe when you're ready for stability, you'll consider your options. That was the last time I ever walked through that front door. Still, invitations came. Engagement party for Isabella. Graduation dinner for Logan. Milestone birthdays. I declined most. But sometimes, some uncle or distant cousin would call, say, "Don't hold grudges, Ethan. Family is complicated." No one said that when Diana installed her children into every room of my childhood. No one defended me when my tuition vanished into Logan's future. Family wasn't complicated. They were just comfortable ignoring pain that wasn't theirs. And now this birthday, this party, this resort filled with people who didn't notice when I left, but sure as hell noticed when I came back looking cleaner, sharper, unrecognizable. The name tag was their last attempt to remind me I didn't belong. But what they didn't realize was I never wanted to, not anymore. They say silence is power, but sometimes power needs a microphone. The name tag was still sitting where I'd left it, squarely on the edge of the reception table, unbothered. Like it didn't just try to brand me again. Ethan, the disappointment. I took another sip of champagne and decided to give them what they'd been dying for all night. A performance. I moved through the crowd like I belonged there because I did. I wasn't a guest anymore. I was a witness. And I had something to say. The chatter was loud until it wasn't. It only took one move placing my glass down, just a little too hard on the marble-topped bar, and the room began to shift. A few people turned. Not enough. So I walked to the center of the main hall, right beneath the chandelier that sparkled like it was wired with secrets. I found an empty dessert fork from one of the servers, tapped it gently against a glass. Clink. The second tap was louder, sharp, and just like that, a hush swept in. Hundreds of eyes. Conversations paused mid-laugh. Wine glasses suspended in the air like everyone had pressed pause on a scene they didn't know was about to implode. Dad stood by the fireplace, hand casually wrapped around a drink. Diana was beside him, arm looped with false elegance. Isabella and Logan flanked them. As always, picture perfect. My voice was calm when I started. Not theatrical, just audible. I wasn't planning to say anything tonight. I saw Diana shift, subtly. Her fingers curled tighter around her glass. Dad didn't move. But then I saw the name tag you left for me. The disappointment, right? A few heads turned toward the table. Whispering began. I smiled slightly. It's clever. Honest even. You've been calling me that for years, just never this directly. Dad's eyes narrowed. Ethan, don't worry, I said, cutting in smoothly. I'm not here to ruin your evening. Quite the opposite. I took a step forward. My voice held. My spine didn't flinch. I came to thank you. Murmurs rippled again. Diana's lips parted, unsure if it was sarcasm or surrender. Seriously. Thank you for setting the bar so low. I had no choice but to rise above it on my own. For showing me what conditional love looks like. For making sure I never mistook silence for safety. Isabella stiffened. Logan's arms folded. But they didn't speak. I used to think I was invisible. That if I worked harder, stayed quiet, bent myself into smaller and smaller shapes, maybe I'd finally fit into your frame of a perfect family. But then I realized I was never meant to. A few guests looked uncomfortable now. Others intrigued. Some uncomfortable in the kind of way people get when truth leaks into their wine. I kept going, because in this house, well, this resort, you only matter if you look the part. If your resume sparkles, if you ask for nothing and perform everything. I was none of that. I was inconvenient. Dad exhaled slowly. Diana whispered something to him. He didn't reply. I wasn't Logan, who got the college fund I was promised. I wasn't Isabella, who got praised for breathing and rhythm. I was just Ethan, the disappointment. I pulled the name tag from my pocket and held it up. This little thing, it used to sting. Now, I looked at it and smiled. Now it's a badge, a reminder of everything I survived. Then I locked eyes with Diana. And you orchestrated it perfectly. You made sure I never forgot my place. You won, right? Her smile faltered. Except I did forget, for a while, and I found a better place. I turned to Dad. His stare was cold, unreadable. You wanted me to become something you could brag about at parties like this. But I became something better, someone you couldn't control. His grip on the glass tightened. I'm not here for reconciliation, or closure, or forgiveness. I just wanted you to know you didn't break me. The silence hung heavier now. And one more thing. I raised my glass not in a toast, but in a final gesture. Happy birthday, Dad. Enjoy your champagne. This is the last event you'll ever host where I walk in unannounced. I placed the name tag on a nearby table, centered it perfectly. Then I walked away. No shouting, no tears, no second glance. Behind me, someone finally breathed. Someone else gasped. I heard a fork clatter to the ground. Maybe Logan, maybe a server. None of it mattered. As I passed the doors of the hall, I caught the final look from Diana: shock, confusion, and something close to fear. Good. Let them wonder if this was just a crack, or if the whole facade was starting to collapse. Because I didn't just speak, I detonated. The heavy glass doors of the resort closed behind me, with a final, satisfying click. Outside, the air was cooler, cleaner. The distant sound of waves rolled across the beach, like an applause no one else could hear. I stood still for a moment, letting the silence sink in. Inside that resort ballroom, they were probably scrambling to regain control of the narrative. Diana whispering frantic damage control into someone's ear. Dad pretending none of it mattered. Logan and Isabella trying not to make eye contact with anyone in case they looked complicit. Let them try. There was no recovering from truth, served cold in crystal glasses. I walked toward the parking lot, each step feeling lighter. My heart was still beating hard, but it wasn't fear. It wasn't shame. It wasn't the panicked thud of a boy who wanted to be heard. It was the steady rhythm of a man who had just finished burying something. I got in my car and slammed the door shut with more finality than force. My phone was already buzzing when I turned the engine on. Dad, missed call Diana. One message. Isabella, what the hell was that? Logan, wow, drama much? Delete, delete, block, block. I didn't even hesitate. They had written the script for me since I was 10. I had just set fire to the last page. The next morning, I woke up in my apartment, sunlight slicing through the blinds. I let it happen, let it bathe my desk, my shelf, the coffee mug still half full from yesterday. I didn't check my phone. I didn't open social media. I just breathed. I made eggs, toast, drank coffee from a chipped mug I'd bought at a thrift store 5 years ago. It said, "World's okayest son." I used to hate it. Now it felt accurate and kind of funny. For once, breakfast didn't taste like bitterness. 3 days passed before the call came. It was a number I didn't recognize, but I had a feeling. I answered anyway. Ethan. My father's voice hadn't changed. Still low, still too composed, still trying to sound like the patriarch of some empire that was starting to rot. I want to talk. Silence. You can't just walk out like that, he added after I said nothing. You made a scene. I leaned against the counter, looking out the window. A kid was riding his bike in the street below. No helmet, no care, just freedom. I didn't say anything yet. You embarrassed your stepmother, he continued, like that was the crime. I told the truth, I said calmly. You made it public. You made it personal, I replied. He paused. You can't just cut ties with family because you're angry. That's not why I cut ties. Then why? He asked. It wasn't curiosity. It was control in disguise. Why now? I turned from the window and said the one thing I never thought I'd say out loud. Because I finally realized your love was just approval with conditions. And I stopped needing it. There was a beat of stunned silence. You're being emotional, I laughed. Low, measured. The kind that doesn't sound amused at all. You labeled your own son a disappointment. That's not emotional. That's cruel. He tried again, softening. You don't have to prove anything, Ethan. I already did, I said. I did it without you. More silence. I could hear the words forming, the excuses bubbling up, but I wasn't interested in any of them. I'm done, I said simply. This was your last chance. Then I hung up. No anger, no shouting, just a clean cut. And then I blocked that number too. Weeks passed, then months. I kept waiting for guilt to creep in, for that ache in my chest, that second-guessing voice. It never came. What came instead was peace. Not loud, not dramatic, just the quiet of unlearning everything I thought love had to feel like. I got back to work, landed 2 new clients, launched a campaign that actually trended. I started sleeping better, ate better, laughed more. I even bought myself a new suit, nothing flashy, just one that fit. Because that night at the resort, I realized something. I wasn't the disappointment. They were. They were the ones who couldn't see past status and appearances, the ones who mistook silence for obedience, the ones who couldn't recognize the resilience in the child they pushed away. I never responded to Diana's follow-up email, or Isabella's attempt at reconciliation through passive-aggressive Instagram comments, or Logan's accidental Venmo request labeled therapy fund. Let them spiral. Let them scramble. I was finally building something that didn't include them. A life defined by what I chose to keep, not what I was forced to tolerate. One night, months later, I stood by my window again. A soft breeze slipped through the crack. I looked down at the street below, watched people come and go, watched their lights flicker and fade, and I smiled. Because the version of me who once waited for a father's approval, who twisted himself to fit someone else's definition of enough, that version was gone. Buried quietly at a birthday party, beneath a crystal chandelier and a name tag that no longer held power. I didn't just walk away that night. I walked home. Story 2, 6 years. That's how long it had been since I last saw her. And honestly, I thought I was over it. Thought I'd buried the past so deep it couldn't claw its way back up. But there she was, Camille, waltzing into our college reunion in a champagne dress, arm in arm with a guy who looked like he'd just learned to shave. She gave me a quick glance, sharp, calculated, and then smiled at the crowd like a debutante on parade. Everyone, she called out. Eli and I are engaged. Cue the applause. Laughter. Fake shock. People clapping like this was a wedding scene from a rom-com. But I knew the real reason for the noise. Everyone was waiting to see what I would do. The ex-boyfriend. The guy who, once upon a time, would have given up everything for her. Instead of reacting, I smiled politely and pulled out my phone, transferred $1,000 in the spot, and sent it to her with the note, "Congrats, hope this one sticks." That's when the cracks in her perfect smile started to show. Camille practically dragged me to a quiet corner of the room. "Jason," she whispered, her voice low and urgent. "6 years isn't long enough for you to get over me?" I blinked. "You're getting married." "It's fake," she hissed. "Eli's family's been pushing him to settle down. This is just for show. After this, we'll be done and I'll marry you. Like we planned." I nearly laughed in her face. Because the thing is, I've heard this script before. Too many times. Every time she got close to Eli, she'd come running back, promising it was just temporary. Promising I was the one. Promising. And every time I fell for it. Until I didn't. I slipped my hand out of hers. "Camille, we broke up a long time ago. What you do with Eli is your business, not mine." She flinched. Her eyes hardened. "We didn't break up. We just had distance." "Distance," I scoffed. You mean when I moved out, blocked you, deleted everything, and sent a breakup email that you never even replied to? She stayed silent. Come on, Camille. Our mutual friends knew. Hell, the barista at the corner shop probably knew. You were the only one pretending otherwise. I turned to walk away. That should have been the end of it, but of course it wasn't. As I reached the door, Eli blocked my way like some overzealous bouncer. Jason, bro, don't leave so early, he said, grinning like a guy who just won a bet. It's a party, man. No hard feelings about what happened 6 years ago, right? His words were like tiny daggers disguised as hugs. Camille rushed to his side, her tone sharp. Jason, don't be so dramatic. You're really going to hold a grudge over something that happened years ago? Oh, you mean that something? The time she left me stranded on our wedding day because Eli had a panic attack about going outside in the dark? Left me, standing in slush and snow in a tux on a highway, waiting for someone who never came? Yeah, I remember. I trudged 3 hours through a blizzard, soaked to the bone, just to make it to a venue full of guests I had to disappoint. Humiliated, frozen, alone. And Camille? She spent the night at Eli's place, playing nurse while I fought off a fever and tried not to break. Not dramatic, I said. Voice even. Just done. I started to step around them, but Eli kept the act going. Dude, the engagement's just for optics. If you're uncomfortable, I can call it off. Before he could finish, Camille snapped. No. Eli, don't. So she did care about appearances, just not mine. I was done pretending. I looked at the gaudy engagement ring on Eli's hand and almost laughed. That ring, that was my ring. Custom designed. For me, Camille had it made years ago, said it was one of a kind. But when Eli admired it back then, she just gave it to him. No hesitation. That diamond had been mine until it wasn't. So I walked over, plucked the ring from Eli's hand, and tossed it into a nearby trash bin. You can keep the memories, I said. I'll pass on the leftovers. Camille's eyes widened in disbelief. She reached out and grabbed my wrist. Jason, wait. I turned, annoyed, but then froze. She'd pricked her hand on something. Her gaze dropped to my ring finger. There, catching the dim light, was a simple gold band. You're married? I nodded. With a kid, I added, not out of spite, just truth. Camille's face crumpled. You married someone else? After everything we had? I stepped back, brushing off her hand. Yes, her name's Rachel. She's kind. She never left me on the side of the road to chase someone else's panic attack. Camille staggered. You can't just pretend we didn't have history. I'm not pretending, I said, walking past them. I'm just living in the present. As I left, Camille called after me. Don't regret this, Jason. But I didn't turn around. Not this time. Because regret? That belonged to someone else now. I left the reunion and walked straight back to the hotel. Honestly, I should have never gone in the first place. But I figured, hey, why not check in with some old faces, laugh about dumb college memories, grab a drink or two, then bounce. Instead, I got ambushed by the past wearing lipstick and a fake engagement ring. The cold night air helped a little. So did the thought of Rachel and our daughter, Grace, waiting for me upstairs. That's the part Camille never knew. I wasn't just married, I was happy. Rachel and I met in Amsterdam during a work trip. I was jet-lagged, limping from an old snowstorm injury, yep, that one. And she offered me her umbrella in the middle of a surprise rainstorm. That kind of cliché. But it was real. She smiled at me like I mattered. Not for what I had, not for some twisted history, but for me. Rachel listened. She laughed at my dumb jokes. She saw me in a way Camille never did, even after all those years. And she never once made me feel like a placeholder. So yeah, seeing Camille again, watching her grasp at old illusions while I stood there wearing the ring someone chose for me. It was eye-opening. I pushed through the hotel lobby, headed for the elevator, and guess who I ran into? Yep, Camille and Eli, same hotel, because of course, She looked stunned. Jason? You're here? Eli smirked like he'd caught me doing something shameful. Man followed us here, he said to her, loud enough for the lobby staff to hear. Guess he regrets walking away. I stared at him, then looked at Camille. Really? You think I followed you? This is a couple's hotel, she snapped. So unless you're having some crisis, the door behind me opened. Rachel stepped out. Wearing my hoodie, hair still damp from her shower, holding Grace's favorite stuffed animal in one hand and a juice pouch in the other. She smiled when she saw me. Hey, babe. Forgot the snacks. Camille's face turned pale. Rachel walked up beside me, handed me the pouch, and kissed my cheek. Everything okay? Yep, I said, wrapping my arm around her. Just bumped into some people I used to know. Camille looked like someone had pulled the rug out from under her. She blinked fast, zeroing in on Rachel's wedding ring. You really got married, she muttered. Eli, of course, tried to recover. Well, congratulations, man. Didn't know you were, you know. Settled. Rachel extended her hand politely. I'm Rachel, Jason's wife. And you are? Camille hesitated. Camille. Rachel gave her a gentle, almost pitying smile. Nice to meet you. Camille bristled, then turned to me with that same tone she used to use when she wanted something. Jason, can we talk? Alone? I shook my head. No need. You loved me, she said, voice trembling now. You told me that. You said I was the only one. You were, I said. Then you made sure you weren't. Her mouth opened, closed. Then the claws came out. She's your rebound, she hissed, jerking her chin toward Rachel. That's all. You left because you were hurt, and you found someone who made you feel safe. But you still love me. Rachel didn't flinch. She just stepped closer and said quietly, Camille, you had your chance, and you threw it away for a boy who couldn't go downstairs alone. Camille's face twisted. Excuse me? I finally stepped in. Enough. You're not going to talk to my wife like that. Wife, Camille repeated, bitter. You don't even know what we had, I do, I said. That's why I left. Camille looked around like she couldn't believe no one was defending her. Eli had already backed away, pretending to check his phone. I honestly don't even think he wanted to be part of this mess. Then Camille did the thing I'll never forget. She raised her hands like she was going to slap Rachel. But before she could make contact, I caught her wrist mid-air. No, I said. Just that, one word. Then I let go and turned to Rachel. Let's go upstairs. We walked away as Camille stood there shaking, Eli awkwardly pretending like he didn't exist. Up in our room, Grace was already asleep. Rachel tucked her in, while I stood by the window, hands in my pockets, heart pounding. That woman, Rachel said finally, sitting down beside me. She still thinks she owns a part of you. She used to, I admitted. Not anymore. Rachel didn't say anything. She didn't need to. She just reached for my hand and held it. Sometimes silence says everything. That night, I lay in bed watching my wife sleep, thinking about how different my life had become. Camille used to be the storm I chased, the chaos I thought was passion, the fire I tried to contain. Rachel was sunlight, constant, quiet, steady. I didn't need to fight to be seen. I just was. And for the first time in my life, I realized I had peace. The next morning, the three of us sat at the hotel's little breakfast buffet, sipping coffee and feeding Grace scrambled eggs while she smeared jelly across her face like it was war paint. It was peaceful, simple, the kind of morning that doesn't make headlines but sticks with you anyway. And just as I started to relax, guess who walked in again? Camille, alone this time. She didn't hesitate, just grabbed a chair from another table and sat down at the one right next to ours, like we were old friends who needed to catch up over muffins. Jason, she said, ignoring Rachel completely. We need to talk. Rachel squeezed my hand under the table. Not a warning, just a reminder I was here, not there. Camille, I said calmly, I don't think there's anything left to say. You can't seriously believe that, she said. leaning in like this was some secret reunion. You and I, we were everything once. I looked at her, and for a second, I saw the girl I used to know. Not the one who left me freezing and humiliated on what was supposed to be our wedding day, but the one I fell for in college. The one who made me laugh, who danced barefoot in the living room, who once promised forever. But that version of her, she'd left a long time ago. I've moved on, I said. You should too, Camille scoffed. With her? Don't make me laugh. Rachel didn't even blink. She just took a sip of her coffee. I stayed quiet, watching Camille squirm in her own discomfort. Jason, she continued, more desperate now, you owe me a chance. After everything I gave you, I cut her off. What exactly did you give me? She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Because the truth was, she didn't give me much. Not when it counted. She gave me mixed signals, broken promises, empty apologies. Meanwhile, Rachel gave me stability, warmth, and an actual home. Camille tried again, her voice trembling. I was young. I didn't know what I wanted. I did. I said, quiet but firm. And you made me feel stupid for it. That landed. Her shoulders dropped. So, what now? You just forget me? I shook my head. I don't forget. I remember. I remember everything. That's how I know I can't go back. Camille stared at me, like she didn't know whether to cry or scream. And then, finally, she laughed sharp and bitter. Fine, she spat. Let's see how long this little dream lasts. She'll never understand you like I do. Rachel finally spoke. I understand this, she said, looking Camille right in the eye. You left him when he needed you the most. I held him when he thought he didn't deserve to be held. That's the difference. Camille froze. The words hit her harder than anything I could have said. And that should have been the end of it. But of course, it wasn't. Because later that afternoon, while Rachel and Grace were napping, I got a knock on our hotel room door. Camille. I stepped out into the hallway before she could see inside. I told you this was over, I said. She didn't respond right away, just stared at me, eyes rimmed red. Then she pulled something out of her pocket. A folded piece of paper. I wrote it all down, she said. Everything I couldn't say out loud. I didn't take it. Just looked at her. I can't do this anymore, Camille. You need to find closure some other way. Her eyes searched mine like maybe, just maybe, she'd find the man who used to chase her. But he wasn't there anymore. She lowered the paper, looked down at her feet, and nodded slowly. Okay, she whispered. Okay. She walked away without looking back, and for once, I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel guilty. I just felt clear, because closure doesn't always come in dramatic scenes or handwritten letters. Sometimes it's just a quiet hallway, a steady refusal, and the sound of someone walking away for good. We flew back home a few days later. Rachel sat beside me on the plane, asleep against my shoulder, and Grace had knocked out mid-coloring. One crayon still gripped in her tiny fist. I stared out the window, clouds rolling like soft hills beneath us, and let the quiet settle in. For the first time in a long time, there was no weight pressing on my chest, no ghost of what could have been. Just now, just this moment. And maybe that's what healing really is. Not forgetting but not needing the past to mean anything anymore. When we landed, life picked up again like it never skipped a beat. Mornings with Grace trying to put socks on the dog. Rachel humming while she made tea. Grocery lists, bedtime stories, weekend park visits. Simple stuff, good stuff. Camille never called, never emailed, never followed up with that letter. I figured maybe she finally understood that no reply was the clearest answer. Then one afternoon, a few months later, I got an email. No subject line, just her name in the sender field. I almost deleted it unread, but something made me click. It was long, rambling, a mix of apology and reflection. She said she'd gone to therapy, that she realized how she used people as crutches instead of partners. She said she missed me, not just what we had, but the version of herself she was when she was with me. I read it all, and when I was done, I didn't feel anger. or sadness, or anything dramatic. Just quiet. I didn't reply. Not out of cruelty, but because there was nothing left to say. Some people want closure like a conversation, but mine came like a sunrise, slow, warm, and without anyone else needing to be there for it. A few weeks after that, I heard Camille and Eli had broken up. No big scandal. Just fizzled out. Apparently, he'd moved back in with his parents. She was in another city now, starting over, and I wished her peace. Truly, but from a distance, because the life I'd built didn't need rewrites or revisits. The truth is, Camille was a chapter in my book, but she was never the ending. Rachel is. She's the one who held my hand when I had nothing to offer but hurt, who loved me patiently, quietly, without games or conditions, who built a home with me, not out of nostalgia but brick by brick, with trust and laughter and early morning pancakes. And Grace made everything real. She made me want to be the kind of man I never was before. Not because I needed to prove anything, but because loving them makes me better, naturally, effortlessly. Some nights, I sit on the porch with Rachel while Grace sleeps inside. We watch the sky change color, sipping tea and listening to the wind move through the trees. And sometimes, Rachel will glance at me and ask, "Do you ever think about her?" I always answer honestly, not like I used to, because Camille was a storm. Loud, messy, unpredictable. But storms pass. And what comes after? That quiet peace? That's what I wake up to every day. It's not flashy. It's not a grand finale. It's better. It's mine. Story 3, I used to believe love meant sacrifice. That if I just loved hard enough, long enough, he'd love me back. Spoiler, he didn't. When my grandfather asked me which of the Brooks brothers I wanted to marry, I didn't hesitate. I chose Nathan, the older one. But years before that, it was always Caleb. Caleb, the younger one, the boy I chased like a shadow through childhood. I once faked being sick, just to avoid a trip, unless my parents let me visit the Brooks estate, just to see him. I actually begged my parents to match us. My whole life, I thought Caleb was it, and for a moment, I thought I had him. Our families arranged the engagement when I was 22. I wore the gown I'd dreamed about since I was 16. But on our wedding day, Caleb stood in front of our families, held Lily's hand, yes. Lily, the girl my family fostered and raised as our own, and declared he would never marry anyone but her. In front of everyone, he didn't even look at me when he said it. I stood there in that dress, drowning in silk and shame, while the room buzzed with whispers. And just like that, I realized the truth. He never intended to marry me. The engagement was a public humiliation, a slow, cruel unraveling planned to break me. And it did. I died less than a year later. Some say it was pneumonia, but honestly, it was heartbreak. So when I woke up in this second life, yeah, I know how that sounds. I promised myself one thing: stay away from Caleb. I did more than that. I chose Nathan. Tall, quiet, measured Nathan. The brother who had never once spoken to me with malice, who had never made me feel small. It stunned everyone. My grandfather even pulled me aside and asked, "Are you sure about Nathan?" I told him, "Even if he's not perfect, I'd rather have peace than another lifetime of pain." And that was that. Except Caleb didn't take it well. The first time we bumped into each other after the engagement announcement, I was picking out wedding decorations at the mall. He saw me, jaw clenched, voice sharp. "Zara, when are you going to give it a rest?" "Excuse me, you're following me again? You forced the elders to bind us together before. You satisfied now?" I kept my voice calm. "I'm not following you. I'm here planning my wedding." He grabbed my wrist. "Hard, don't lie. You're still stalking me. I didn't expect to see you here." Then his friend laughed. "Looks like she's picking out flowers. Getting married? To you, Caleb? That's convenient." Caleb turned to me with that same contempt. "I used to mistake for passion. Just because our families arranged things once doesn't mean you've won. Even if you get my body, you'll never have my heart." I looked him in the eye. Who said I want your heart? I'm not marrying you. The flicker of panic in his expression, almost worth the years of agony. After everything you did to force me, now you back out? His friend tried to lighten the mood. She's mad, bro. Don't be so cold. He softened just enough to murmur, fine, I'll come to the wedding, but don't expect me to like it. And then perfect timing, Lily showed up. Sundress, glossy hair. That oops, I caught you face. She froze. Caleb ran after her. Lily, wait, it's not what you think. She ran. He glared at me like I'd orchestrated the whole thing. If she's upset, I won't let you off easy. And I just laughed. That night, Caleb brought Lily home. Our house, my house. He came through the door with bags full of gifts, like some deluded romantic drama. I was on the couch, watching a documentary. I didn't move. He looked at me. You saw me carrying this stuff. Why didn't you help? It's not for me. She's your sister. If she looks desperate for gifts, people will laugh at me. I'm not your fiancé. He didn't reply. Instead, he tossed a box of blueberries on the table. Here, reward. Don't say I mistreat you. I stared at the box like it might bite me. I'm not a stray. I don't beg for scraps. Then I looked at him. And aren't you just a guest in this house? He turned red. Minutes later, I heard them in the next room. Him whispering to her, pressing her against the wall like a scene from a teen soap. If anything upsets you, tell me. Don't get sick over it. I know you always treat me best, Lily said, all sugar. I turned off the TV and walked out. Took the long way upstairs, hoping to avoid them. Halfway up the staircase, I caught Caleb looking. He stepped away from Lily like a kid caught stealing candy. Lily turned, smug and slow, watching me climb the stairs. That night I got a message from her sister. Even if Caleb promised you a wedding, the title of Miss S. Brooks will always belong to me. What happened last time will happen again. You'll never beat me. And that's when I knew I wasn't the only one who had been reborn. In my last life, I thought Caleb had accepted the engagement out of love. Turns out, it was to destroy me. The day before the wedding, he walked me to the altar and handed me off to Lily. So no, I wasn't going to let that happen again. This time, I gave up on Caleb. I chose Nathan, the one man who never lied to me. Our engagement went smooth. No drama, no interference. Even my grandfather supported it. A week later, I went to the jewelry store to pick up our rings. I designed them myself, simple, modern, meaningful, only to find out they were gone. Caleb picked them up, the staff said apologetically. We couldn't stop him. Why? Because the store was owned by the Brooks family. My rings mine were on Lily's Instagram 2 days later. One of a kind, she wrote. From my beloved, I lost it. I stormed into Caleb's office, only to find Lily lounging at his desk, turning the ring under the light. Ugly, isn't it? She said sweetly. But Caleb gave it to me, so I love it. My hands clenched. She smiled. If I wear it to your wedding, will I outshine you? I snapped. I grabbed for the ring. We struggled. Then sudden, searing pain, a kick to the ribs. I hit the ground hard. Caleb's voice roared. You're insane. How dare you touch Lily? Don't you know how fragile she is? Lily burst into fake sobs. If you hadn't come in time, I don't know what she would have done to me. He cradled her, wiping her tears. I won't let that crazy woman near you again. I don't care if she's a Wilson. Even his secretary who tried to help me got fired. Who said you could help her? Caleb snapped. Pick up your last paycheck. I stood there, bruised and humiliated. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just laughed. I limped out of that building like a ghost. Caleb called after me. Don't expect me to pick you up for dinner? I didn't turn around. I didn't even respond. But inside, I smiled. Because Nathan was coming home that night. And this time, everything was going to change. Dinner at the Brooks family estate felt like walking into enemy territory, except this time, I had backup. Nathan had arrived before me and was already seated. His presence felt calm, solid. He didn't need to say much, just him being there was enough. I sat beside him quietly. Then Caleb walked in, late as usual, and clearly not thrilled to see me next to his older brother. "Zara," he said, voice tight, "why are you sitting next to him? Come sit by me." He didn't even wait for me to answer, just assumed I'd obey like the girl who used to orbit his life. Before I could open my mouth, Nathan beat me to it. "Why shouldn't my fiancé sit beside me?" he said coolly. Caleb froze. "Fiancé?" Nathan didn't even flinch. "Yes, we're engaged." You could practically hear Caleb's world tilting. He looked between us, confused and pissed. "What kind of joke is this?" Nathan looked him dead in the eye. "You have a problem with me marrying her?" And just like that, the power dynamic shifted. Caleb, the golden boy, the favorite, suddenly looked like a confused teenager, while Nathan was every bit the composed older brother with the upper hand. "You don't even like her," Caleb mumbled. "Then who should she marry?" "You?" Nathan asked. "Of course, me," Caleb snapped. "Everyone knows she's obsessed with me. She begged our families for the engagement. She even pretended to be sick just to force the marriage." I felt the blood drain from my face. The memory still stung. But before I could respond, Nathan reached over and took my hand. Warm, steady. His eyes stayed on Caleb. "And you? Do you even like her?" Caleb didn't answer. Nathan nodded slightly. "If you don't like her, what right do you have to marry her?" He turned to me, and his tone softened like velvet. "Just because you never noticed her doesn't mean I didn't." My breath caught. Was it real? Or was he just protecting me? Caleb kept going. "Since when did you even like her? Why didn't you say anything before?" Before Nathan could answer, the front door opened. Lily, of course. She walked in like she owned the place, dressed up like it was prom night. She even wore heels, even though she used to complain they gave her blisters. "Sorry I'm late," she said with a bright smile. "Hope I'm not interrupting." Mr. Brooks didn't smile back. "Who invited her?" Caleb didn't even blink. "I did." Mr. Brooks shook his head, clearly annoyed. "Why? This is a family dinner." "She's Zara's sister," Caleb said. Mr. Brooks sighed. "She's not a real sister. She's adopted. This dinner is to discuss wedding matters. She doesn't belong here." Lily's smile faltered for half a second, but she recovered fast. "If I'm not welcome, I can leave." Caleb jumped in. "You're welcome. Sit by me." "Of course." She sat, then turned to me and whispered with that signature fake concern. "Sister, what could you possibly use to compete with me?" I didn't take the bait. I just picked up my glass and focused on not letting her ruin the moment. That's when Nathan leaned toward me and placed a piece of fish on my plate. "This one has no bones," he said gently. "You can eat it safely." I blinked. It was such a small gesture, but no one had ever done that for me before. Not even Caleb. "Thank you," I said softly. Nathan smiled. "You're about to be my wife. Taking care of you is part of the job." I looked down quickly, my face warm. Under the table, I felt a sharp kick to my shin. I looked up. Caleb, of course. He lifted his phone slightly, motioning for me to check mine. I rolled my eyes but glanced at it anyway. 3 unread messages. 10 minutes ago, Zara. Are you really doing this? 5 minutes ago. This thing with my brother, it's fake, right? 1 minute ago, what did you offer him? Money? I put my phone face down and blocked him. He lost it. Zara, why aren't you answering me? He blurted out across the table. Everyone turned. I calmly set down my fork, picked up my water, and without a word splashed it directly in his face. Cold, direct, no drama. He sat there soaked and stunned. Lily gasped. "Zara, what are you doing?" I turned to Caleb and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "If you don't believe me, that's your problem. But I am marrying Nathan, and I've blocked you for a reason. Please stop contacting me." His face twisted in disbelief. "You're really marrying him? What a joke." Lily, of course, saw the moment as a perfect performance opportunity. "If this is about the ring, you can have it." "I didn't know it was yours." Nathan turned to me. "What ring?" So I told him. His eyes narrowed as I spoke. You wore the wedding ring meant for us? He asked Lily. She tried to play dumb. I didn't know. It doesn't matter, he said. You took something meant for someone else. That's called theft, Caleb cut in. It's just a ring. The jeweler has 100 more. Nathan didn't even raise his voice. Anyone who disrespects Zara will be dealt with. I don't care who you are. Dinner ended shortly after that. Nobody said a word as we left. In the following days, wedding prep moved quickly. Maybe too quickly. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. Caleb stopped messaging me. And Lily? She was too quiet. It was the calm before a storm, and I knew it. But despite the nerves, I found myself okay, really okay. Nathan wasn't just pretending anymore. Every day with him felt like healing. He'd check in about flower arrangements, offered to help with invites, even fixed my printer when I had a meltdown over seating charts. He wasn't cold like people said. He was just reserved, careful with his words, but never once cruel. Then, the night before the wedding, I got a call. Unknown number. I answered out of habit. Hey, sis, Caleb's wasted, making a mess. Can you come get him? It was one of his friends. I think his name was Tony. Not my problem, I said. Let Lily handle it. I'm getting married tomorrow. He won't let us call her. Said only you can come. I paused. Was this a setup? He sighed. If you don't come, I'm dumping him on the curb. I hung up, then messaged Nathan. Caleb's drunk. His friends called me. I'm not going alone. I sent him the location. Then I went. Out of caution? Maybe. Or maybe I just needed to see for myself if this man had finally let me go. I found Caleb hunched over a table at a run-down BBQ joint. His hair was a mess, eyes glassy. You said we'd be done, he slurred. So why did you come? I didn't tell him the truth that I came, because I didn't want his friends dumping him on the street and ruining the Brooks name the night before my wedding. And then, just like that, he stood up and kissed me. I pushed him away instantly and slapped him so hard my hand stung. You're drunk? I asked. He didn't answer, just wrapped his arms around me, tight and trembling. I can marry you, if that's what it takes. Just don't marry Nathan. I shoved him off. I'm marrying your brother tomorrow. Stop saying things that make me pity you. You really hate me that much? He whispered. Yes, because you only remembered I existed when I stopped chasing you. He stepped forward. Zara, if it's about Lily, I'll cut her off. Too late, I said. You had your chance. And then, from behind me, I heard the sound of footsteps. Nathan. He walked straight up and without hesitation punched Caleb across the face. You think I won't protect her just because you're my brother? He said, voice like ice. I broke down. Not because Caleb hurt me again, but because someone had finally shown up. After Nathan hit him, Caleb just stood there, stunned, blood at the corner of his lip. I stayed where I was frozen, breathing hard, too tired to feel pity. Nathan pulled me close and wrapped an arm around me. I don't think he even realized I was crying until he brushed a thumb under my eye. I'm sorry I was late, he whispered. That single sentence carried weight, like he knew it wasn't just about that night. It was about all the nights that came before, the years where no one had chosen me. Not once, not even me. Nathan didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He just turned to the family butler standing nearby. Take him home. Don't let him show up tomorrow unless he's there to behave. The butler nodded. Caleb didn't fight it. Maybe because deep down he knew this time. He lost. The morning of the wedding I was surprisingly calm. Hair done, dress perfect, everything in place. But inside I was holding my breath. And then the door opened. Nathan stepped in already in his suit, every detail crisp. I'd never seen him look so effortlessly put together. Like the storm last night never touched him. He closed the door behind him and smiled like he saw something beautiful. Why are you hiding that face? He asked softly. I turned away, flustered. I'm not hiding. He walked over and scooped me into his arms, no warning. He sat down, settling me onto his lap like it was nothing. You're beautiful, Zara, he said. eyes locked on mine. Let me have this moment with you. Just you and me. I nodded, letting myself melt into the quiet of it. Then he kissed me. Soft at first, but it deepened with every second. Like all the words he never said were there, between our mouths. When we finally pulled apart, he laughed under his breath. Don't forget to breathe next time. I blushed. Sorry. Not used to this. He tilted his head. Used to what? Someone loving you properly? That got me. For once, I didn't deflect, didn't joke. I just said what I meant. Thank you for choosing me. His smile softened. Zara, I chose you the moment I saw you crying over my brother when we were teenagers. I just knew it wasn't my time yet. But of course, peace never lasts too long when the past isn't done with you. Just as we were getting ready to head out, someone shouted outside the door. Move or I'll do it myself. Then came the crash. Caleb. He barged in, eyes wild, shirt wrinkled like he hadn't slept. He took one look at me still sitting in Nathan's lap and snapped. Zara, the wedding's starting. Are you seriously still playing games? He stormed forward, tried to yank me away. Nathan stood up fast and blocked him. Touch her again, he said, voice dangerously low, and I swear I won't hold back this time. Caleb pointed at me. Zara, if this is some act to get my attention, fine, you got it. Just cancel this joke and come with me. I'll marry you today. I'll give you a better wedding than this. Nathan slowly rolled up his sleeves. You're embarrassing yourself, Caleb scoffed. Embarrassing? She chased me for years. She begged for my love. You think she actually loves you? I stepped in front of Nathan before things exploded. I looked Caleb in the eyes. I did love you, I said. In another life, when I didn't know what love really looked like. His face twisted, like the words were cutting deeper than any slap ever could. Now, I continued, now I've learned the difference between obsession and love. Love shows up. Love doesn't humiliate you in a white dress. He was silent. I took Nathan's hand. I'm not running anymore. I'm choosing peace. I'm choosing someone who chose me back. Caleb turned to his parents, desperate. He stole her from me. Miss S. Brooks looked at him, sad but firm. You had her first, and you let her go. That's on you. His father added, trying to ruin your brother's wedding won't fix your regrets. Caleb's lips moved, but no sound came out. Finally, he turned and left, and this time, I didn't chase him. The ceremony went on. I walked down the aisle, holding on to a life I had only dreamed about in pieces. Nathan stood at the end steady, sure, waiting like he always would. And in the far corner of the room, hidden behind a group of guests, I saw a glimpse of Lily, alone, watching. She didn't stay. She left halfway through the vows. That was the last I saw of her for a long time. Later, Nathan's mom told me Caleb caught a flight overseas that same evening. No forwarding address. No real goodbye. Lily followed him eventually, pretending she needed medical treatment. But judging by her Instagram, she didn't find him. She came back years later, married to someone else. I didn't feel much when I heard. Not anger, not satisfaction, just nothing. That's when I knew I was finally free. Our wedding night was quiet, the way we both needed it to be. Nathan had been forced to drink way too much by his friends. He stumbled into the room and dropped face first onto the bed. I laughed. You okay there? He rolled over and grabbed my wrist, pulling me toward him. I'm not drunk. Just tired. Let me lie here for a bit. I ran a hand through his hair. I can draw you a bath. He smiled without opening his eyes. No need. Just hold me. That's all I want. And so I did. 3 months later, I threw up 5 times before noon. At first, I thought it was the flu. Then I took the test. Positive. I wasn't sure how to tell him. Nathan had always been calm, but this was big. That night, I left the test on the bathroom sink and waited. He walked in, saw it, and came out slower than usual. You okay? I asked. He nodded, stunned. Then a smile crept across his face. You're not joking, right? Nope. He sat beside me and held my hand. This kid has no idea how lucky they're going to be. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I'm scared. I'm not, he said simply. Because it's us now, and we'll figure it out together. That's the thing about real love. It doesn't demand. It doesn't chase. It just shows up, quiet and steady. Not perfect but honest. And that's worth everything.